This is Nimasa This Week, the official mouthpiece of the Nigerian maritime sector. My name is Iretiola Doyle and you are welcome. The Maritime Labour Convention of 2006 was adopted by the International Labour Organization to help create better work and living standards for seafarers working aboard ships all over the world. Now, Nigeria became the 5th African country to adopt this convention when she ratified it in June in 2013. In line with Nimasa's determination to provide a better work environment for the Nigerian seafarer, the agency, alongside the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity, as well as the International Labour Organization, organized a stakeholders meeting to help fast-track the processes that will lead to its full implementation come June 2014. Our head of studios, Razak Izebe, put the next report together.
The Maritime Labour Convention 2006, popularly referred to as MLC 2006, is a global labour convention adopted by the International Labour Organization, ILO. It establishes minimum working and living standards for all seafarers working on ships flying the flags of ratifying countries. Nigeria has since ratified the convention and is putting final touches to the processes that will usher in its full implementation come June 18, 2014. In line with Nimasa's determination to provide a better working environment for Nigerian seafarers, the agency, alongside the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity and the International Labour Organization (ILO), last week organized a tripartite stakeholders meeting to fast-track the processes that will lead to the domestication of the MLC 2006 in Nigeria. In accordance with ILO stipulations, representatives from the 3 major sectors vital to the effective formulations and implementation of the MLC 2006 were present. These are delegates from the government, the employers of labour, and the key beneficiaries of the MLC 2006, the maritime workers. The meeting was presided over by Mrs. Teresa Brimo, a member of the board of Nimasa. She stood in for Dr. O.C. Ilo, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity, who was unavoidably absent. In her opening remarks, Mrs. Teresa Brimo chronicled the various steps Nigeria had taken in a quest to implement the MLC 2006 and urged all the various bodies present to work together to resolve some of the gaps already identified by ILO.
The ILO had discovered that there are gaps in our laws, and that's what we want to look at to see how well we are able to cover those gaps for the ILO to know that we are ready for implementation.
The representative of the Director General of Nimasa at the event, Barrister Callistus Obinwabweze, set the tone for the business of the day by appealing to the participants to be focused and committed in their contributions to this all-important document that will accelerate the domestication of the MLC 2006 in Nigeria.
We're all here today to receive the presentation of this important assignment and to provide further inputs, observations and resolutions in line with the process and procedure required by the ILO. Let me say here that because the MLC 2006 is a new convention, we can confidently say that there is no expert as it relates to the implementation of the convention. So we expect that as we go forward, there will definitely be trial and error. What is important for Nimasa as an agency and for the entire stakeholders is to remain focused and committed.
Nimasa Director of Maritime Labour Services, Mrs. Juliana Guma, gave the government perspectives to the deliberation and reiterated government commitments towards the speedy implementation of the convention in the country.
On the part of government, a holistic approach to each part of the proposed regulation was studied aside the gap analysis and the relevant maritime regulations. Government supports this regulation and we strive to work assiduously towards its approval and subsequently its implementation in consultation with shipowners and seafarers representatives in line with the convention.
The ILO-approved legal consultant, Barrister Egbado, spoke on the mandates he got from Nimasa and ILO as regards the successful domestication of the convention in Nigeria. According to Barrister Egbado, they consulted far and wide before coming up with the final draft regulations.
The draft regulation that is before you has taken cognizance of the identified gaps in Nigeria's existing legislation on maritime labor as enumerated above. We have also taken cognizance of international labor standards as set by ILO. This draft document is expected to meet the consensus of everybody, the workers, the seafarers, the ship owners, and of course the government.
Then, with the speeches, the meeting proceeded into the work session, where Barrister Matthew Egbadon presented the draft regulations to the participants. The stakeholders deliberated, commented, and submitted papers regarding the draft regulations. Part of the knotty issues that were highlighted and ironed out was a case of who should be called a seafarer and the fate of non-conventional vessels that are less than 500 gross tons whose interests were not clearly taken care of in the presented draft. At the end of the meeting, Barrister Kalisti Sobi was of the opinion that it was a good outing and used the opportunity of the forum to emphasize Nimasa's commitment to implement the MLC 2006 convention.
We are the fifth nation in Africa to have ratified it, and the 37th country in the world. That is a manifestation of our commitment towards the implementation of the convention.
The ILO-approved legal consultant, Barrister Matthew Egbado, expatiated on the modalities taken into consideration before putting the draft regulations together.
We had meetings with Nimasa. Of course, we revisited existing legislations. We did a gap analysis. What is the position of the law as of today, as contained in our statute books, vis-a-vis the provisions of the Maritime Labour Convention 2006.
Captain Thomas was of the opinion that the meeting was in line with ILO standards of tripartite compositions and emphasized the fact that the entire maritime practitioners in Nigeria are eagerly awaiting the enforcement of the convention.
Having ratified this convention, our flag vessels will enjoy some privileges because, one, the inspector going on board on inspection, on citing the MSC certification on board, that the MSC certificate from a particular flag state gives an impression that this vessel is meeting all the requirements as per the MSC 2006. So you're ready for it? We are very ready for it.
Otumba Falari on his part commended the federal government and Nimasa for the bold step already taken to fast-track the domestication of the MLC 2006 in Nigeria.
Nimasa has been in the forefront in making sure that they put all facilities in making sure that this convention is not only domesticated, but is given an early implementation, particularly given the fact that Nigerian seafarers have high hopes that they have got a Bill of Rights, so to speak.
The 5th Niger Delta Achievers Merit Award recently took place in Abuja to celebrate visionary leaders and high achievers from the Niger Delta who have contributed immensely to the development of that region. The Director General of Nimasa, Mr. Zakede Patrick Abubulukemi, was a recipient of this prestigious award and was also present at the event. Our waterway correspondent Amanda Akpan presents this report from our studios.
The 5th Niger Delta Achievers Merit Awards took place in Abuja recently. The event, which is aimed at celebrating the foresight and vision of men and women in the Niger Delta region who have stood out to promote lasting peace, growth of the region's economy, good governance, and reduction of youth restiveness, and also creation of job opportunities for the people of the region. The awards, which was held at the Sheraton Hotel in Abuja, had in attendance the Supervising Minister for the Ministry of Niger Delta, Architect Dixon Darius Ishaku, Senator Daisy Danjuma, the Director General Nimasa, Mrs. Akeda Patrick Akobulakaimi, and other distinguished guests. The organizers of the award, Mr. Mudiaga Derek Kakabuta, expressed his delight at the turnout of dignitaries at the event despite their very tight schedule and spoke on the reasons for the recognition of the awardees.
Today, awards will be given for excellence, merit, distinction to individuals and corporate organizations who have contributed in the fields of academic and intellectual excellence, health, administration, youth empowerment, tourism, to mention but a few.
Reflecting the Nigerian culture, which is one of the objectives of the Niger Delta Achievers Merit Awards, and also a reminder of who a true Nigerian is, the Centenary Cultural Group performed and entertained the guests at the event with their captivating dance. Mrs. Ainko Briggs, the guest speaker for the event, gave a speech on legacies of peace and sustainable development in the Niger Delta. In her speech, she encouraged the youths in the region to develop the Niger Delta by collectively introducing positive measures and ideas to help build a better, brighter future for their generation.
If the youth of today do not develop more than we did at their age, then the future for their children is going to be bleaker than the future and the present that they are in. The present they are in today, the future they will go into, and the future that they will hand over to their children.
Architect Darius Dixon Ishiaku, the supervising minister for the Ministry of the Niger Delta, laid emphasis on his vision for the Niger Delta region and encouraged them to work together to improve their region.
I will want to see the Niger Delta that is the center, the hub of petrochemical development in this country. A Niger Delta that I will see the youth acquiring wonderful skills, just like the skills you can see in the ICT. And I think this will be accomplished.
After the supervising minister's speech, the Director General and CEO of the Apex Maritime Regulatory Body in Nigeria, Nimasa, then delivered the speech on peaceful coexistence, a panacea for development in the Niger Delta region. In the DG's speech, he was quick to admit the relative peace in the Niger Delta so far. This peace, he said, has enabled the rapid development in the region as the agency is working so hard to transform and develop the Niger Delta.
Peace is a necessary ingredient for sustainable development, and all of us know this. Peace is very, very important for us to move, to become one of the greatest countries in the world, to join the committee of successful countries in the world.
Akpobulokemi then listed out various steps the agency has taken to develop the sector.
Nimasa has shifted from a contract issuing agency to a purely regulatory body enforcing regulations. Today, I can confidently tell you who can be found present in any part of our maritime domain, including our EEZ. We have the platforms, we have the men, we have the capacity, we have got all the master mariners that we need to do this job, and we are doing this job.
The event then went into the awards proper as various personalities and organizations were honored. The Director General of Nimasa Ziakede Patrick Akpobulokemi was honored with the Award of Excellence in Leadership and Administration in recognition of his contributions to the growth of the Niger Delta region.
One of the beneficiaries of the Nimasa Maritime Institute's Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University in Lapai, Niger State, recently held her maiden convocation lecture. Now, this event attracted dignitaries from both academia and the corporate world. Nimasa's Director General, Mr. Ziakede Patrick Akpobulokemi, was singled out to be honored by the institution for his commitment to build capacity for the maritime sector. Nimasa's Executive Director in charge of Labor and Cabotage Services, Barrister Callistus Obi Nwabweze, led the Nimasa delegation to Niger State to receive this award on behalf of the DG. We present this report from our studios.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, under the leadership of its Director General, Mrs. Yakeda Patrick Apoblekaimi, is totally committed to its mandate to build up human capacity for the Nigerian maritime sector. This resolve has seen the growth of the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program to its present height, with over 2,500 cadets studying in top maritime institutions all over the world. Nimasa has also set up maritime institutes in 4 Nigerian universities, namely the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, University of Lagos, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University, the PI, and the Niger Delta University, Amasoma. Not too long ago, the agency also made history by establishing Nigeria's first maritime university in Okerenkoko Delta State. For these and many other bold initiatives by Nimasa, the Director General of Nimasa, Yakeda Patrick Apoblekaimi, has been widely commended and bestowed with different awards in appreciation of his contributions to human and infrastructural development in Nigeria. The latest of the set of awards to be conferred on the DG took place in Niger State at the Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University, Lapai, during the University Maiden Convocation Lecture. On hand to receive the award on behalf of the Director General was Barrister Callistus Nwabweze Obi, Nimasa's Executive Director, Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services. The colourful event, which was witnessed by some principal staff of Nimasa, also had in attendance dignitaries from the government and the academic circles. According to the University Authority, Mrs. Yakeda Patrick Apoblekaimi was singled out for recognition primarily for his commitment in establishing a maritime institute in their university and also in appreciation for the various developmental projects embarked upon by Nimasa in their institution.
The Director General of Nimasa visited the Chief Servant to intimate him on the intention of establishing in IBB an Institute for Maritime Studies. And I'm happy to inform you that the intentions of establishing a Maritime Institute has become a reality today. And at the same time, they have assisted us with the completion of one of the lecture theatres. And it is for this purpose, therefore, that we, part of this convocation, want to award them a partnership award for this university.
While receiving the award on behalf of the DG, Barrister Callistus Nwabweze Obi thanked the institutions for considering Nimasa worthy of such an esteemed award, and declared that Nimasa is building up capacity in the maritime sector in line with the transformation agenda of Mr. President to exploit the huge potentials that exist in the maritime industry so that Nigeria can take its rightful place as a major maritime hub in Africa. Earlier on, the Director of Maritime Studies in the state-owned university had conducted a delegate from Nimasa around some of the facilities at the Institute of Maritime Studies.
So we have this set of computers, we have the books.
The tour took them to the e-library, lecture halls and conference rooms. The Nimasa team was also shown some of the ongoing projects in the institute. While responding to the press, Barrister Callistus Nwabweze Obi said he was happy with the level of work going on in the institute and pronounced that Nimasa will continue to support the institution so that the purpose for which it was established will be realized. You will recall that the Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida University Lapai in Niger State is one of the 4 universities that benefited from the maritime institutes that were established by Nimasa to curb the dearth of seafarers in the country.
The Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria recently held a meeting with maritime regulators and employers of labor to discuss ways to better the future of the maritime worker. This meeting, known as the National Economic Council meeting, was led by the President General of the Union, Comrade Anthony Emmanuel Inted, and his executives. Nimasa, as well as other maritime stakeholders, were in attendance. Our waterways correspondent, Amanda Akpan, was present and files in this report.
The National Economic Council meeting by the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria was held recently at the Golden Tulip Hotel in Lagos. The meeting, which is an annual event of the union, is held with regulators and employers of labor in the maritime industry. The aim is to present scorecards and deliberate on the strategies for the future of the maritime workers, as this will provide the platform for commendations in the areas where achievements are made and improvements in the areas of challenges. The meeting had in attendance the President General of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Comrade Anthony Emmanuel Nted, and his executives. The representative of the Director General of Nimasa, Mrs. Juliana Gunwa, the representative of the Managing Director, Nigerian Ports PLC, Mr. Koli Awonisiko, the representative of the Managing Director, Intels Nigeria Limited, Mr. Bobola Adeniyi, fellow comrades and distinguished guests. The President General of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Comrade Anthony Emmanuel Nted, started his address by speaking on the union's determination to ensure that only educated and experienced-based leadership will be nominated for elections of officers at its various levels of authority.
The union, in its determination to ensure knowledge and experience-based leadership at all levels, both now and in the future, has enthroned strict internal democracy in the nomination and election of officers at the various levels of authority. This ensures openness and transparency in the conduct of our election. There can never be a more desirable legacy of peaceful transition of leadership in our great union.
Mr. Nted commended the present branch executives of the union for the sustenance of peace in their various branches. He then reiterated the earlier promise by the management of the union to provide soft loans for the establishment of mini enterprises for very poorly paid workers in the dock industry, as this workshop on life after retirement will be of benefit to its members.
Our concern for the welfare of our workers is both for the period they are in paid employment and out of paid employment. We make passionate appeal to all members to take personal plan for their tomorrow.
Mrs. Juliana Gunwa, Director of Maritime Labour Services in Nimasa, who also represented the Director General of Nimasa, Ziakede Patrick Akpoblekaimi, read out his goodwill message to the comrades. As the competent regulator in the Nigerian maritime industry, the Director General Nimasa recognized the role played by the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria in effectively implementing the agency's mandate as a key stakeholder representing the interests of workers in the maritime sector. He then recalled some of the milestones the agency has been able to achieve in the past in order to ensure the implementation of the agency's labor functions that meets that of international standards.
Last year, that is year 2013, significant accomplishments were made in the training of dock workers. To ensure their skills are enhanced, seafarers training specialized and mandatory courses were conducted to ensure they meet the necessary requirements for onboard placements.
To further prepare the stakeholders for the coming into force of the Maritime Labour Convention 2006, the Director General reiterated on the agency's commitment to enlighten stakeholders by holding tripartite stakeholders meeting, of which the Maritime Workers Union were not left out.
Plans have also been concluded to conduct maritime labour inspectors training for the conduct of flag and post-date control inspections in line with the requirements of the convention. Furthermore, special sessions with the relevant stakeholders, and in particular the seafarers, will be carried out in June 2014 to further bring to form their responsibilities and obligations on the convention.
While seeking for continuous support by the union to ensure Nigeria delivers on its mandate as required by all the ratifying countries, he commended the union for the relative peace and harmony that have existed in the industry and hopes that it will be sustained in the interest of the nation. At the end of the meeting, The President General of the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Comrade Anthony Nted Emmanuel, spoke with Nimasa this week on the aim of the meeting.
The NEC meeting is the highest organ of the union. The NEC is known as the National Executive Council of any union as far as the 29 industrial unions are concerned in Nigeria. And it's our obligation to have that meeting so that we will be able to discuss issues affecting the maritime industry, the operation and the union itself and our members. I think that is the purpose of the NEC meeting of today.
And so we come to the end of this week's edition of the show. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, please don't forget, Nimasa this week is an interactive show. We want to know what you're thinking, respond to your comments, questions, and even your criticisms. All you need to do is send an email to the address currently showing on your screen. Now, we're going to be here same time, same station next week. Until then, we're wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.